Why is self-awareness important? That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the Thought Leader session or segment that I have. And we're going to talk about that. All about why is it important? Why is self-awareness important? Self-awareness is the ability to see ourselves clearly and to understand who we are and how others see us and how we fit into that world. A lot of times we don't want to see that. We don't want to open up to that because we know clearly who we are, but we don't want to face up to it. And it's important to face up to it, but it's also important to make changes. You see, it's one of the most important things any of us can develop. Being and remaining self-aware helps you not only live your life peacefully, but also fairly smoothly at times as you go about your day, as you encounter different experiences in your life. It helps things to be smooth. It helps you understand your triggers, as it was, And we always talk about those triggers. We always talk about, who upsets us, why, and we never ask ourselves why they upset us. Just a side note, when people upset us, it's usually a mirror of who we are. Okay, we see ourselves and we get mad at it. So being aware means you have knowledge about yourself that no one else can use. Get it? No one else can use this information if you take time to become aware about yourself. No one else can use this information against you. It's a good understanding of perceptions that others have of you, right? And it also plays out in your life towards your purpose. So when you hear people say I know people never ask, and maybe you did. What do you perceive about me? Who am I to you? What do I portray to you? And when people are hesitant, they really probably don't know, or you've shown them something very negative. So they don't want to answer. So this includes knowing you and what your strengths are. Have you ever been asked what your strengths were? And I know we can say that, I love people please. That's not people please. I'm a people person. That's not a strength. The strength is, being personable, being able to communicate. Your strength is communication. It's not being a people person. It's communication. So what is your strength? What's your weakness? Oh man, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear our weaknesses, because if we hear our weaknesses, we got to do something about them. Or then we figure, holy crap, then everybody knows my weaknesses. Well, I hate to tell you, you may not be admitting your weaknesses, but everybody knows them. Only one that hasn't admitted it is you. So, for example, if you're short-tempered and you know that you struggle to remain composed or self-controlled when you're angry, and your family members or close friends also know that, then you are, to a certain extent self-aware. But when you get angry, and that's just the way I am, and use that phrase, that's just the way I am, take it or leave it, means you know that you are, but you're not taking responsibility for that. You're short-tempered. But then you look deeper into, why are you short-tempered? What about this subject makes me so short-tempered? What about this person asking this question makes me so short-tempered? It's about assessing yourself. It's not about anybody else. It's about you. It's about you. Being fully self-aware, it paves the way to change. Then you start to change, and you start to take initiative and responsibility, and you start to change. Especially around those characteristics that are self-destructive. All right? You start to embrace and maintain those attributes that other people appreciate about you, but you start to scale away all those self-destructive behaviors. So I hope that you got like a little idea of like what self-awareness is. And we're going to step into now, we're going to step into how self-awareness works. Now I talk about self-awareness and authenticity, and I talk about original self because I believe they're two different things. And I don't believe you find yourself. I believe that you remove layers of masks that have covered yourself, but that's another topic. Okay, but self-awareness involves observing your entire self, okay, and understanding it, and be willing to align with it, and you stand true to what's good and valuable in your life, right? But get rid of those things that are self-destructive, bad behaviors, bad attitudes, all the things that are not self-destructive, more or less self-destructive. Let's put it that way. So you start to peel that stuff away. So it's an intentional act, right? Self-awareness is aimed at helping you, me, ourselves, themselves, individually, know yourself better. That's it. It's there to be better. And we often wonder why people are calm in like very serious or scary situations. It's because they become very self-aware of themselves, and they've learned to control the very emotional part of them that makes them self-destruct, and they figured it out. So in this place of self-awareness, you're going to intentionally direct your attention to your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations, your beliefs, and your actions as a unique person, as your own person. And then you get to discover how you work, the inner workings of you. See, at times you might find yourself saying, did I say that? I can't believe I did that. You know when you do that, right? You know it. When you find yourself saying and doing those things, meaning that now you need to start to be very self-aware. So self-awareness helps you avoid those types of situations where you regret the words or the actions that you perform. So instead, we can be much more aware of how we think, feel, and act when we are alone. And that's another great piece of self-awareness, the art of being alone. And I know there's a book out there that's called The Art of Being Alone. And sometimes we mix that alone with loneliness, and it's two different things. So the art of being alone is learning how to be so self-aware yourself, and enjoying the time, and enjoying, creativity. Because in that aloneness, you find creativity. In that aloneness, you find out who you are. In that aloneness, you find out what you like to do. And it creates a feeling of, even though you're alone with a bunch of people, you can feel almost part of that. So self-awareness is really, it's an ability that you can become very, in tune with your entire self, when I say your entire self, I mean every aspect of your entire self. So it will definitely bring you into that space. Now, this is all going to be a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. So don't expect that you're going to be so self-aware that all of a sudden, bam, you're going to know everything. No, it's literally like an onion. It's literally like learning about yourself like an onion, because every mask, now think about a mask, okay? Think about a mask. How's it created? I remember when I was in school, we did paper mache, I think it was. That's how old I am. We did paper mache and we created a mask, or we created something. The layers of this was so major that you had to keep putting on layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. And then, like, wow, it was a lot of work. So think about that as taking off masks that you were given. So first you have to figure out what I believe and how is it interfering in my life, right? What I was told and how it's interfering in my life, right? What I agreed to and how it's interfering with my life. Those are three things that people do not work on. Those three things. What I was told, what I agreed to. Oh, third one I said something. What I agreed to, what I was told, what I was agreed to, and my beliefs, what I believe, right? And if they interfere with your life, it's more than likely that it's a mask. It's more or less that it's been something that you have no clarity on what it means. And I've been there, done that, and still taking some of those things off. So make sure you start to really explore your real self and realize who you actually are. And then, of course, the new question comes after you find out who you are is, what do I want? And that's a whole mind-boggling thing all by itself. So you need to achieve this. You need to observe yourself from a distance. And how do you do that? Well, it might seem impossible, but I've done it. And it is achievable. And it's a practice. You have to observe yourself like you're looking at somebody else. Okay? So that means taking off the blinders and not thinking that you're the best thing since, I don't know, toothpaste. But taking that off and just looking at yourself and saying, hey, would I tolerate that if I was the friend, if I was the mother, if I was the sister, and then you operate and you become aware of what you think and what you feel without judgment. Whew, that's heavy, right? Without judgment. You start to observe yourself from a distance without no judgment. Like, yeah, I thought that. And maybe you would write it down. If you're like me, you're a journaler, you would probably write it down. So after a long period of observing yourself, I can't tell you how long to observe yourself, but I want to tell you it'll take a while. And you're not going to see everything or feel everything or know everything right away. But if you're intentional, you can write it down and keep a list of those things. So you have to then start to evaluate what you've discovered and see if it's what you would want to be known for. So if you are a talker and overtalk people, would you want to be known for overtalking people? No, honestly, look at yourself. Like, really look at yourself. Would you want to be the one that's always talking about I did this and I did that, and come into the conversation talking like that to people that you don't even know what the conversation is about? Would you want to be known for or appreciated for or giving to the world that I was a humble individual, meaning I spoke, gave place for other people to speak, and we understood. Humble doesn't mean I relate to everything and let people walk all over me. Doesn't mean that. You can look it up. But you have to start to observe yourself for that, and ask yourself, do I want to be known for that? Since we all have strengths and weaknesses, right? You can enhance those traits or personal attributes you love about yourself and would like to maintain and minimize the negative ones you would like to adjust. So most of the time, the things that you like to adjust is your behaviors that come from your emotional being. that you have no emotional control over. And that's usually what happens. A lot of times it's all emotional. It has nothing to do with your good qualities. Your good qualities to communicate, good qualities to, to do all the great things that you do have nothing to do with emotions. It's when the emotional part happens. And that's when the negative behaviors and the negative weaknesses start to come out. Like, you may not like to be told what to do. You may shut down when somebody tells you, hey, no, you should, this is what you shouldn't do. You may shut down. You may bark back. You may, get out of there. You may, okay, run out of the situation, or you might fight, So you gotta figure out why this is happening, and it's all emotional. After evaluating and choosing, you can move forward with implementation where you now need to seek change, what you don't like, or submit into your life what you do like. Submit. One of the great things I like, and when I was, on my journey, working with solitude and alone time, is that I really appreciated alone time, and how I liked it. But because of what I believe, that if I was not doing something, I wasn't being productive, I always tricked myself out of that. Now, after I want to say this is my 5th year, 5 years, I have cemented into my life quiet time in the morning, meditation time, exercise time. And then everything after that happens. Okay. So I've cemented time for my alone time, for my solitude time, for myself. The things that I didn't like was that I wanted people to be like me. Like, why can't people see it? And then I would get frustrated when I was explaining something and they couldn't get it. So I had to adjust that, because I was emotional. Because guess what that is I wasn't being validated, because they weren't getting what I was telling them, and I wasn't being validated. So I was getting angry. So I had to realize that people are not like me. They're not like me. I'm an original. So I had to realize is when I'm sharing something, somebody doesn't get it, it's in their time or not at all. But it's still okay. Right? So I had to adjust my awareness with that. I had to implement change to see that I needed to change that, because that is an emotional problem with my attachment and everything, and my validation. That had something to do with me, had nothing to do with them. Okay? So it's going to be a challenge, right, to become self-aware, because I know I've been there, done that. It's going to be a complete challenge, and it involves going against the grain of your habits, okay, against it. You're consciously altering. You're breaking up things. You're changing things you are automatically used to doing. Like, so you going back and forth with someone, you've been doing that for years, but you stopping it. It takes pumping the brakes, and it even looks funny when you do it. It's like, oh God, I gotta calm myself down, because this has to do with my issues, not theirs. They're not getting it, but this is what I gotta do. So I have to pump my brakes, right? So that I can reposition my habit of going back and forth with somebody because they're not getting it, and I have to educate them. No, I could say once, they don't get it. It's not something I did to them. It's something with me. So in this phase, you get a lot of opposition from your natural tendencies, and you often fail to make permanent change in your belief system, your thought process, emotional aspects, and even in your actions. But you have to be consistent, and you have to be firm with yourself. Sometimes you will do it well, and other times you'll fall backwards, and that's okay. But if you stick to it and you have a target and you keep pushing through the opposition, you'll eventually get into this evolved area, right? Where where you want to become. You start to become who you really are without all the other stuff, right? So the last part of this is, how do you know when you're being self-aware, right? How do you know it? How do you really actually know it? It's so common for many of us to believe that we are less self-aware than we actually are, okay? This stems from false premises that, well, self-awareness is a supernatural power that only the intelligent, the brilliant, and the smart people have mastered. Untrue. We all can master this. So what are your signs? You start to set boundaries. You have limits. When you are self-aware, you often have boundaries. It's just so important. You don't allow anyone to go beyond those boundaries. Since we all can't agree on everything, it's obvious. Like I just told you about my situation, it's obvious. We're going to differ at times. So that's fine. And take that with a grain of salt. It's fine. And we have to learn to stop, going over the same thing. Like, so if we had a situation and it didn't go our way, we go home and think about it. We just keep, mashing it up in our brain over and over and over again. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. Let it go. Let it go. Let it drop right there and say, okay, that's it. That's a boundary for yourself. Have the courage to recognize and accept that. Draw the line on some things. And that shows that you're being self-aware. Having those limits will help you to tolerate, you be tolerable to other people, and you can tolerate them. Okay, it shows that you have self-awareness. If you take time to think about the negative things that you will not accept from others and determine how much you can do so much more for yourself, you can discover your limits and set boundaries. And when they're crossed, you might require some serious steps to protecting yourself. You're emotionally stable. That's number 2. You are emotionally stable. Self-aware people have a good control over unhealthy emotional overflow. That's what I call the bad behaviors. Okay, the overflow. If you meet someone, then tell you, you meet someone and they start talking and they tell you everything about their life from the time they were born to the time at present. That's an unhealthy emotional overflow. That means they have no control, no emotional stability. If you do that, you have to work on your emotional stability. What does that mean? It means that you were not emotionally, you were not validated by someone. So you need to tell the person that pays attention to you real quickly, you tell them everything about your life. Okay? You have to understand that your emotions can run completely wild. And that might damage yourself or others. So you have to give yourself a chance to take time before responding to any situation, regardless of how heated it is or regardless how emotional it is. Take time. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And then respond. Okay? 3, you are not afraid to express yourself as you feel fit. Self-aware people often make it easy to express their real feelings about various topics in life without holding themselves back for fear or being judged or perceived wrongly. When I first started this journey, I started saying no with a period, because I started with a no with a comma, and I would explain away. And I would give everybody room to make me say yes. Because everything after the comma means but, and give you room. So I wised up really quick and I said no with a period. And people could, one person told me, who was a colleague, said to me, I don't understand these short answers. Why not? It's an answer. Whether I tell you what I want to tell you is up to me. But when you ask me a question, it's just that simple. Yes or no. Yes doesn't need an explanation. Why does no need an explanation? Right? Okay. So hold to those. don't be afraid to say what you feel, especially if you're self-aware, if you're starting to be self-aware, because a lot of things, when I started to, talk to people and express myself, a lot of it was emotions. And once I got those emotional stability, I was able to say those things without emotions, and they were able to be received. Okay? So figure that out. A lot of times we have fears that go on in our speaking, or we wait until we're angry and we express how we feel. Okay? It's different for everybody, but make sure that it's an authentic place, where you're coming, what you're talking about is coming from an authentic place, and it's not full of emotion. Okay? And the conversation will be smooth, and the ability to speak, no matter what it is, will come out differently, and the opinion will get across to others. That's when you know you're self-aware. You are intuitive and follow your gut instincts. Okay? Intuition for me is a big one. It's like the watchman on the tower. It's the innate creature that tells you everything you need to know. Everything you need to know. And most people who are self-aware are in tune with their intuition and can easily tell when something's not right, something's wrong, or when something's about to happen that's not good. So, I talk about, I have a talk on intuition as well, and I definitely believe in intuition, and most people call it the gut instincts, but I definitely believe in that. You're at peace with yourself. Doesn't mean that everything is perfect. Doesn't mean that. And you're always living in that Zen state. Doesn't mean that. I learned that. I'm learning that now. It means that you have learned about your strengths and your weaknesses and have accepted them. While you're working on your weaknesses, and I'm definitely not beating myself up, and when I find myself going on and on, I stop it. Give myself a little smack on the hand. Don't do that. And then I revert back to, accepting. Everyone has shortcomings, and learning to live with them as you better yourself in those areas, which is a process, is a sign of self-awareness. Now, I want to hit this last one because I know this subject is really long, and I know that most people would want to ask questions, and I'm going to leave space for that. But I want to hit this last piece of it. What self-awareness is not, and I don't want you to get it confused. Okay, so this is very important. What self-awareness is not, it's often mistaken for mindfulness or self-consciousness or emotional intelligence or even self-understanding. Okay, it's not any of those. While self-awareness is the ability to see yourself clearly, understand who you are, how others see you, and how you fit in the world, mindfulness is a quality of being aware of the present moment. So whatever you're doing, you're being aware of the present moment. You're there. You're not thinking tomorrow, you're not thinking next hour, you're not thinking next 30 minutes, you're not thinking the next minute. It's being in the present moment. Mindfulness plays a big role in self-awareness as it helps with observing oneself, and it reveals to you yourself as you know yourself better. Okay? It's not self-consciousness. Self-consciousness is a state of extreme self-awareness that often leads to feelings of anxiousness, nervousness, and overwhelmed and stressed. Okay? Although it's temporary, only lasting as long as you feel you are in the spotlight, it can throw you off balance and make things super awkward and confusing. So self-consciousness is not what we're talking about today. Self-awareness is not. It's being conscious of the awkward, what's happening at that moment, and what's being aware of how you're feeling in that moment. Okay? Emotional intelligence, which I teach a class on this. I love this class because I have so many students in this class and everyone loves it. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, regulate, and respond to your emotions as well as other people's emotions. Self-awareness, along with empathy, self-regulation, social skills, and motivation are among the critical components of emotional intelligence. It's a component. Okay, it's just that easy. So it's a component of emotional intelligence, right? And I said that earlier. It is how emotional intelligence is how deeply aware a person is of their senses and others' senses. And the last one, self-understanding, is the awareness of and the ability to gain knowledge of and understand your characteristics, such as your norms, your ideals, and your future plans. How the understanding how those fit into your life. Those are all related to self-awareness, but they're not self-awareness. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to share this with you today and there's so many other pieces to this, but we're going to just stop at this and get the understanding of it because I think I shared a lot of it. One way to continue on this journey is to keep a personal journal. When you do this, or when you have the time to be self-aware, write things down. Write it down, and really get into understanding situations that you're in, and you become, or you have a destructive behavior, uh, uh, some kind of, outburst. And another great thing to do is become a good listener instead of a good talker. Because when you're talking, you don't learn anything. You're teaching someone else, or you're sharing something else. Other thing that really helped me is reflection. Sit back and reflect on the situation. Create a space for yourself to reflect, like unpacking things. And that's the problem, is we always pack things up, but we never unpack things. In conclusion to what I'm saying, self-awareness is pretty much about getting to know yourself. By building and maintaining your self-awareness, you find peace, happiness, fulfillment, and you find out who you are as a person. It's not a walk in the park. It's not easy. It requires time, patience, being honest with yourself, commitment, readiness, and dedication. Plus, the willingness to experience challenges for making positive changes in your life. Because not everybody and not everything is going to be responsive to the change. They're going to be thrown off, and that's okay too. If you take it seriously and make an effort and work on it every day in one way or the other, through some of the methods that I've shared with you, you'll be well on your way to a better you. And any temporary pain or sacrifices will eventually pay off. If you still struggle and you're struggling with, self-awareness, and you need some support, I am available. And with one click of a button, you can literally contact me to get your first session free. I have so much that's going on down through the year, and because I know it's at the year end, and I have a couple of workshops that are on that are going to be live. Do you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? Set up for success. How to break free from issues in your life. So you have something on November 8th, Thrive in Your Career and Your Entrepreneurship. November 30th, Learning to Forgive, finding grace for yourself. And then finally in December, Superwoman Syndrome, The Trap, and How to Live Free of a Superwoman Syndrome. And that's December 28th. So I hope that I said something that can help you and get you dedicated for your life and for your self-development. This is Edna White signing off. See you real soon.